Hi guys, this is gsn1.com and I'm here with a review of the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. I almost called it a Note. That's because it has here the S Pen for the first time inside the body of a Galaxy S device. Now this is the flagship of the S22 series, which was announced on February 9th and started selling a few weeks afterwards. Okay, so we've already played with the S22 Plus. This is the Ultra. It's definitely bigger and better spec, and you can tell judging by the backside and its periscope camera here. Now, if you're wondering about the price tag, it's around $1,200 for this fully packed and fully spec'd handset, which provides a combination of well, productivity with a pen and DeX, also gaming on account of the brand new Exynos 2200 CPU with the AMD GPU, and I would say a different body compared to the predecessor, much in the vein of a Galaxy Note rather than a Galaxy S. So let's start the review. First things first, we're dealing with a phone which is IP68 certified, dust and water resistant, with Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, a new generation, at the back and also at the front, and an aluminum frame in between. It's not your average aluminum, it's the Armor aluminum, which was inaugurated by the Galaxy Z Flip 3 and Z Fold 3. It measures 8.9 mm in thickness and weighs 228 grams. It may seem heavy, but not as heavy as the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now we have a stylus slot here for the S Pen, and one can't help but wonder what they gave up on in order to make room for it. Okay, so you can see that the bottom is flat as well as the top side. While the sides are very curved, the screen is curved on the sides, the curvature continues on the frame, and the back panel is also curved. It feels slippery at first when you first use it, but if you get the proper way of gripping it, you'll handle it quite well. A case is definitely recommended here. The backside draws some lint and some dirt here in the camera area particularly, so there will be particles of dust surrounding the cameras at all time. They tend to attract it. Notice the lack of a big camera module this time around, unlike the two predecessors. It's definitely got a whole Galaxy Note vibe going for it, albeit a bit more rounded than those models. Definitely well built. It comes with comfy buttons which aren't very clicky, so there's that. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, obviously it's a high-end panel, 6.8 inches, Dynamic AMOLED 2X, high resolution, 3088 over 1440 pixels, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, narrow bezels, and also 120 Hz refresh rate, as well as HDR10 Plus. The refresh rate can go down to something like 10 Hz, if not even lower, and the experience will be shown in a minute as we have a video prepared. Our typical test video is here, and the experience is quite immersive thanks to the narrow bezels. The punch hole here isn't very big in diameter, so it doesn't decrease the fun in gaming or videos. It's super bright, it's very crisp, it's got hugely vivid colors, deep blacks, and a superb contrast in the sunlight, of course, wide viewing angles. Hardcore gamers may be bothered by the curvature of the screen, preferring a flat panel. Now, we have here a panel with pental matrix pixel arrangement. We did a bunch of measurements and we were shocked by the very high brightness. 841 lux units, which is actually inferior to the Galaxy S22 Plus, which had a crazy 873 lux units. Those results were achieved with a special extra brightness mode, a novelty from Samsung in the settings here. So you basically you don't have any comparison terms with the Galaxy S22 series when it comes to brightness. With extra brightness activated, no matter how powerful the sun, you'll always surpass all the other phones out there. And if you're still here, there are some extra options. Motion smoothness, which is 120 Hz or 60 Hz. Eye comfort shield. You can set the colors to vivid or natural, also play with the white balance. You also have font style and size, screen zoom, and the resolution can be HD+, Full HD+, or W Quad HD+. A very satisfying screen, and now we go further. We go inside the phone, where we find a brand new CPU. It's the Exynos 2200, 4nm octa-core with a brand new Xclipse 920 GPU, which comes with AMD RDNA 2 technology, which by the way is also found on the PlayStation 5. It should offer us a ray tracing in mobile games and VRS, variable rate shading. The version we have here is the one that has 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. Somehow Samsung decided to start from 8 gigs and 128 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage this year. No microSD, which was to be expected. Also, there's no lag here, in case you were wondering. The phone is a stranger to lag. No matter what you're doing, what you're updating in the background, what games you're playing, or if it's charging and I don't know, downloading things at the same time. Zero lag, zero stutter, even after the boot. You can also add up to 8 gigs of RAM in the RAM Plus area. It's virtual RAM, of course. Let's see if you can find it properly here. So, advanced features, nope. Device care, memory. You can clean it, you can do the RAM Plus, and you can add this, taking it from the memory, storage, to apply it to the actual memory. We also did a bunch of benchmarks, and we have them here. We go to the benchmark section. We start with Antutu 8. We're placed on the 5th spot. We're above the Asus ROG Phone 5S and Galaxy S21 Fan Edition 5G, but we're below the Galaxy S22 Plus, just by a bit, and below the iPhone 13 Pro. Also, the brand new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 phones we tested, Motorola H30 Pro and Realme GT2 Pro. At the same time, in Geekbench 5 multi-core, we're on the 6th spot, just above the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra and above the OnePlus 9 Pro, as well as the Realme GT2 Pro, which is a bit of a compliment. Once again, below the iPhone 13 series, with the Apple A15 still pretty hardcore in this regard. Now, when it comes to this GPU test, the brand new AMD GPU doesn't exactly impress, on the 20th spot, just above the Xperia 1 Mark III and the Moto G100, but definitely below even some predecessors like the Galaxy S21 Plus or the brand new Motorola H30 Pro 5G. Remains to be seen if the Snapdragon version of the S22 Ultra is higher in benchmarks, or it may be the fault of optimization. Now, we have temperature tests. In benchmarks, it went as high as 37.5 degrees Celsius, not bad. However, in gaming, we achieved 43.2 degrees Celsius, so yes, there is some overheating in those more intense games which you are going to play out there, so be careful with that. Now, on the battery front, you can see it written right here. The phone has a 5000 mAh battery, like its predecessor pretty much, with 45 watt wired charging, 15 watt wireless charging, and 4.5 watt reverse wireless charging. You put a pair of headphones here, another phone, or maybe a watch, and it will start charging up once the option gets activated. Now here we are with the battery life test. So we have first the video playback one. I would say it's decent at 16 hours and 22 minutes. I've seen better. Nowadays we're accustomed to seeing even 20 hours, so there's that. It's below the Galaxy S21 Ultra, which had 20 hours plus, also below the iPhone 13 Pro and the Realme GT2 Pro, and its biggest rival, it's below the Huawei P50 Pro. It does surpass the Motorola H30 Pro and the Asus ROG Phone 5S. That's video playback. When it comes to continuous usage, it's actually a bit more impressive with 13 hours and 47 minutes. That's actually great. It's superior to the Huawei P50 Pro, Galaxy S21 Ultra by 2 hours, and the Motorola H30 Pro by 3 hours. Still below the Realme 9 Pro Plus and the Huawei P40 Pro. Charging requires 1 hour and 9 minutes with the charger we used. We don't have one in the box, as you know already, and after 30 minutes you're going to reach 54% of charge. There are several optimization options in the settings department, including power saving and adaptive battery, plus some fast charging, super fast charging, and battery protect, which limits charges to 85%. On the acoustics front, we have a speaker here at the bottom, right next to the stylus. That's one of them, and the other one is this very small slit at the top, which is also the earpiece. Not very smartly placed, this one here. You're going to cover it with your hands in landscape, so there is that. Obviously, a bunch of options as usual. Samsung provides a lot of features for equalizer fans. So if you go here, you got your Dolby Atmos for gaming, and your equalizer with 9 custom channels and genre settings. Now, as far as the actual experience goes, here comes a tune. Okay, so one thing's for sure, this is for the more chill people. I try listening to EDM on it, it's okay, pop music is okay. If you're listening to high power metal, heavy metal, you're going to have problems. I notice some distortion when the high pitched guitars come in, so there's that. Now the volume is satisfying, although not record breaking. There's plenty of bass, and particularly the high notes and the voices are the highlights of these speakers. However, once again, not a record breaker when it comes to the volume, to the loudness. We have here a bunch of tests, so we start off with the acoustic sample test. 76.9 decibels at the bottom, 77.5 decibels at the top. The stereophony and 3D sounding, well, sound is there. These values are below the S21 Ultra, but above the Huawei P50 Pro. In games, we reached 96.3 decibels, that's more like it, closer to 100 as we like it. Once again, inferior to the Motorola H30 Pro and S21 Ultra, also the Huawei P50 Pro this time. It surpasses the Asus ROG Phone 5 Pro and the Galaxy Z Fold 3. Okay, so finally we have reached the cameras, and I'm going to start with the front one, which is basically the same from last year. 40 megapixel shooter with 4K video, 60 frames per second and PDAF. Face detection autofocus. At the backside, there's no longer that huge module, and we have pretty much the same setup as last year, pretty much the same. Here's the laser focus mechanism here. We have a main 108 megapixel camera with the exact same ISOCELL HM3 sensor and optical image stabilization, as well as these two shooters here. So we have a telephoto with 10 megapixel resolution, 3x optical zoom, and another telephoto, this one, the 10x optical zoom one, periscope camera, and both have optical image stabilization, both telephoto cameras. Then there's the ultra wide camera here, 12 megapixel, which helps with the super steady videos. It has autofocus and 120-degree capture. This ensemble shoots 8K video in 24 frames per second, and you also have a bunch of new options. For example, you have a special type of portrait for pets. Also, you have nightography, so Samsung has put a lot of focus on nighttime capture, but things are happening under the hood, so to say. So you can only see here that we've got a, well, we have a night mode here, and it will be applied to videos, it will be applied to portrait, it will be applied to all the cameras, so that's where the magic happens when the AI kicks in. You can also track up to 10 people, keep them in frame when filming. You have up to 100x zoom with a special steady feature here, which steadies the subject in the middle of the photo, and you can also take 33 megapixel shots during 8K filming. So that's that. Of course, options are here: pro mode, pro video mode, single take, food, super slow, hyperlapse, portrait video, director's view, and as well as portrait, which recognizes once again pets. Okay, that's about it. Now let's check out the gallery. Okay, so here we are with the gallery of shots taken with the Galaxy S22 Ultra, and I decided to divide this review into sections. First things first, let's see how the zoom fared. And this is the regular shot from the distance, from a bridge, and we're taking it through levels now. This is about 3x, then 5x and 10x, and then we go up to 30x or even 100x. This is actually the largest zoom available on the phone, 100x, and things look, well, noisy to be honest, but the way I captured this was easier than on the predecessor. I didn't have to struggle as much to keep the image stable, also thanks to that mechanism which keeps it in focus. As you know, it debuted last year. So this is zoom attempt number 1. We have several more tests. Okay, so there's this one with the sandwich machine, a regular distance, and then you can see also the ultra wide, which by the way doesn't change colors very much. Okay, and here's level 5x, and then when you go up to 10x or so, you can start reading the graffiti on the machine even if you're meters away from it. Several other tests of the kind are here. This is one of the buildings that I rely on when testing the zoom. It's a tower building from my area, and this is how it started with a 3x, then we got up to 10x, then about 30x, and afterwards things get a bit noisy, but still they're good enough for a wannabe paparazzi, even though there's nothing relevant here. In the balcony here, you can't exactly tell what colors or shapes these objects are. Well, I could when I started zooming in. This is purple and this is green, and I had no way of discerning that with my own two eyes. So the zoom checks out. It's about as good as the one from the predecessor. I would say it's better stabilized at the advanced level. Now, chapter number 2, the selfies. We have quite a bit of those, as you can see for yourself. As usual, ever since the Galaxy S22 Ultra, this selfie camera has been flawless, I would say. A lot of detail here, quite solid focus, and a nice way of highlighting my face compared to the background. A sort of accidental bokeh, so to say, even though we also have a separate bokeh available here. And there are even more shots, of course. This is actually when the sun got out of the clouds. You can see the light falling on this side of my face and some nice shades here. I also applied some of those fashionable effects which Samsung is offering, like this one here, making the background black and white. This one which is a typical blur. It actually caught some of my hairs in it, so there are some imperfections in the bokeh department, but all in all, it's a satisfying selfie camera, good enough for a vlogger or fashionista or someone who takes a lot of selfies. And as you can see, I tried it time and time again, and it delivered. And by the way, as you can see here, you can change background effects if you want after the fact. Okay, so 2 chapters are gone, zoom and selfie. The third one is the ultra wide shot. I think you can see it here, for example. So this is the regular shot. The machines aren't fitting in the frame, but you can fit them with the ultra wide. And as you can see, it doesn't deform colors, doesn't deform the image, doesn't change the colors too much. So that's nice. Once again, a bunch of regular shots, and then we have the ultra wide, which kind of makes things a bit cooler, color temperature wise. That's my impression here. Things are a bit more vivid on the main camera. One thing to mention here, the close-ups are finally solid. I didn't like close-ups on the S20 Ultra, which kind of couldn't take them. S21 Ultra, so the S20 Ultra had problems with the close-ups. S21 Ultra kind of solved it, but the S22 Ultra really takes excellent close-ups. Let's see if I have more aside from that handlebar. That's another example here of a close-up. And things are really looking up for Samsung when it comes to this. It's important for food vloggers or food bloggers, because they're going to use this handset for close-ups of food. Now the main camera is the one that takes the core shots, and you can see a lot of those here. Let's check it out. So this is the main camera photo. I'm happy with the color calibration, the details, the crispness. As you know, it combines 9 pixels in one, takes a 12 megapixel shot, and this is how the images look like. Wide dynamic range, perfect exposure, nice white balance, behaves the way a flagship should. And we also played around with a bunch of bokeh for the back camera, not just the front camera. Okay, so a quick mention, it was a pretty cloudy day when I took these shots, and in spite of that, I got enough light for my frames. And I also played with the bokeh effects for the statue here. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. It also filled the vase, you can see there. This one actually worked fine. Okay, so basically you won't feel huge upgrades from the S21 Ultra, maybe except from the zoom, which is a bit better stabilized, and the selfies are spot on, and finally you can take some nice close-ups with the main camera. These were daytime shots, we have quite a few of them. Let's go to the low light shots. Okay, we changed town now, and I have to say that Samsung has banked a lot on this. They're calling it Nightography, and I have to admit it's their strong suit. It's automatically the best night picture phone I've seen over the past year, and keep in mind that S21 Ultra before it was probably the best, so this one takes it up a notch. Photos are basically perfect in the nighttime. Not even the ultra wide ones are amiss, and that's pretty impressive. I'm talking about details, color calibration, the quantity of light captured here. Even the selfies are fine. There's such a thing called night portrait, which basically is triggered with AI, and they're definitely usable for your I don't know, Instagram needs, for example. When the camera needs to capture darker areas, it sure does, and you can still see some of the details here. But when you activate the night mode, you can see the architectural details even better. So if you're a tourist, you're going to need this. But if you want a more realistic approach, this is the one for you. So tourist or realistic, this camera has everything for you. So the Nightography thing is really working out for Samsung. Right now is the best
nighttime photo camera I've seen, even with the zoom on. Check this out, it's something like 10x zoom at least, and you can clearly see the facial expressions of the people which were this far from me. That's crazy. Okay, so this is the photo experience. Let's go to the videos. We have a special app for that here. We have 31 videos, quite a few. Okay, so I have a lot of them because I did multiple stabilization tests, and let's actually start with those. Okay, this one. Okay, so this is a 4K video without the steady mode on. Actually, you cannot activate the steady mode unless you film in full HD. And as you can see, the image is crisp. There's no trepidation, there's no vibration, there's no change of colors or refocus. Okay, and this one here, this is super steady on the ultra-wide camera. And you can actually alternate and change and switch to the main camera. Still pretty crisp. I would say that it's good enough. The stabilization was good enough on the 4K filming in order not to feel the need to activate this one. It may be useful if you're descending stairs, as I actually did later on. Now I'm playing with the bokeh effects. Basically, every other phone that Samsung has launched from the Galaxy S10 onwards have been a gold mine for vloggers when it comes to the selfie camera. It's basically perfect, and this one doesn't change the script too much. It's still excellent for vloggers all over the world. Now, I also did regular videos, and we have very bright colors. I would even say brighter than the photos. They're very vivid, particularly the reds. And we also have 8K videos. This could be one of them. And a lot of detail, that's for sure. Pretty nice color calibration, dynamic range, and white balance. And a pretty nice exposure. I don't see any overexposure here, which sometimes happen on the S20 Ultra, was corrected on the S21 Ultra. Once again, these reds are a bit too vivid for my taste, but that only happens at the higher resolution. Somehow in Full HD, the reds are better kept in check. Nice panning without any ghosting effect or artifact problems. And more videos here. Oh, this is actually the zoom test. I'm not sure if I can play this for you on account of, copyright strikes, but every time I zoomed in, the song got louder. So, and every time I zoomed out, the song got lower in volume. That's the idea. Hopefully no copyright strike, just hopefully. That's it in the video department. Definitely a vlogging tool. Excellent crispness, color calibration, a bit too vivid for my taste. And this is what the low light shooting looks like. One of the best zooms I've seen on video during the night, which is a feat in itself. Of course, if you go all the way up to the crazy levels, you won't be that impressed. The street lights are pretty decently kept in check. The color yellow here is decent, the one generated by the street lights I mean. And the details are quite fine in this city we're looking at. You can even see the icon here at the top of the church, the image, which you cannot see with your own eyes, even during the day, if you're far. So that's pretty impressive in my book. It definitely gets a pass from me. I know that if you're moving and there's not much light around you, there may be some noise and some weird artifacts, but in general, the capture was excellent for a flagship, and it went above expectations for the nighttime photo, nighttime zoom, and even nighttime portrait. So indeed, nightography is the key of the camera. Okay, now let's talk about other features. And by other features, I'm talking about connectivity, of course. This handset has it all. I'm talking about the, of course, 5G, Wi-Fi 6E. There's Bluetooth 5.2 as well here. There's GPS, GLONASS, BDS, Galileo, Beidou, NFC for your payment needs. Of course, contactless payments. We got a USB-C 3.2 port at the bottom side. There's ultra wideband. And I'm actually curious why Samsung is no longer making a tag. Probably scared of all the privacy problems it could pose, like the Apple AirTag. Now, the calls are loud and clear, and when it comes to the speed tests, we also have those right here. As you can see, pretty impressive results. We even did 5G tests. We got up to a huge and pretty impressive 663 megapsecond download in 5G on the carrier Orange, and up to 60 megapsecond in upload. That's download, and the second one is upload. And then on Wi-Fi, up to 717 in download and 663, actually 810 megapsecond in upload. Impressive results all around. Particularly the 5G went a bit above my expectations. Now on the software front, you've seen this story before. It's Android 12 with One UI 4.1. I've actually played with One UI 4.0 on a few devices. This is 4.1 without many changes from the 4.0. But let's see what's happening here. So to the leftmost we have the Google News feed. Then we have the recents here for your multitasking needs. You can see all the cards, and you can also do the split screen thing. And aside from the split screen, you can have the pop-up view. You can have an app floating on the screen aside from the two windows which the screen will be split in. We have the edge bar here with your shortcuts. And if I remember correctly, you can actually pair apps together to open in a split screen. That's a nice feature to have. Okay, and let's see what else we have here. Samsung is very keen on privacy, so if you're using the camera, for example, you're going to see here a green dot, a green icon, and when you're using the microphone, another green icon appears. So every time an app accesses your camera or microphone, you'll be let to know by the icon being shown here, and it happens time and time again, and that's for your privacy needs. There is also this dashboard which shows permissions granted for applications over the last 24 hours or even the last 7 days, which is pretty important if you're privacy conscious. And aside from that, you can also add extra RAM to the phone, of course, virtual RAM taken from the storage. You can also, for navigation, I'm using these buttons right now, but you can use swipes if you want to. Nothing new so far. When it comes to novelty, I am going to think that the widget picker is new. And each widget is now more detailed, as you can see, and more beautiful, which started happening once One UI 4.0 came out. They're cleaner, and at the same time, they show more details, and they're nicer to look at. When it comes to personalization, you have wallpapers and styles, My Wallpapers gallery, and this brand new feature which came with Android 12, it's color palette. It basically chooses a color palette based on the colors from your wallpaper and applies it as accents and colors throughout the menus, the quick settings, and a few other areas. Now finally we reach that time of the review where we pull out the S Pen and we talk about it. Now it's similar design wise to the one that you saw with the Note 20 Ultra. It still has a button here, it still has this clicky thing at the end. Same weight, same format, only lower latency. Right now it's 2.8 milliseconds instead of 9 milliseconds. So the experience of writing on the screen is smooth like butter, even more buttery maybe than it was before on account of that lower latency which I mentioned before. Basically everything is real time. One would say even more real time than a regular pen on paper. So that's the experience you're getting here. Now you probably know the palette already. This palette hasn't changed from before. It's got the same options, from creating notes to viewing notes, Smart Select, Screen Write, Live Messaging, AR, Doodle, Translate, Pen Up, Bixby Vision and more, and you can still do this. An interesting feature which I noticed here, let me just pull out the pen, involves the Samsung web browser. Now if you're in the browser and you're in a website like our own, check this out. So you go here. Of course, you're also going to be using the pen for air actions, by the way, to navigate around, to take photos, and even use some apps, including this one, for browsing. That's pretty cool, but we're not here for that. We're here for this. You can create a note and check it out. You can drop the whole page from the website into the document with a single move. That applies to any website, although some GDPR warnings from the European Union may stop you from taking the site properly, but in some other parts of the world it should work, so you can drop a full website into a note like this. Aside from that, you can obviously write notes. There's handwriting recognition. You can do smart selection. Basically you clip a part of the screen and you can write text on it and share it You can also create animated GIFs, create a live message, which is basically a way of animating text if you want to say happy birthday, do some AR doodles, which are basically writing on real world objects, translate stuff, which actually happens in real time. So if I just if I just hover the pen like this, it translates a word. Let's maybe try with this one. It translates from English to Romanian. That's only one example. There are dozens of languages supported. Okay, and as you can see, it's working. And this whole hovering thing is also good for pictures in the gallery and videos. Well, not if it's using that feature. Let's see it again. You can see previews of the pictures and vids when you're hovering the pen, but it's a feature which has been available for a while now. Still pretty useful. I mentioned handwriting before. It happens in 88 languages, and once again, it's a very fast and responsive pen. But otherwise, if you're being totally honest, there are no major new features from the Note 20 Ultra. And when I mentioned those commands, this one for example, keep the button pressed, do a Z motion, you're taking a screenshot. There are others like this one, which is, from what I remember, the back button. Let's see it again. Yes, it's the back button. You also have one for the home button. You also have options that are related to the camera zoom or swapping the camera. And after years, it's hard for me to get used to them. You can see them listed here. It takes a bit of getting used to. Anyway, that's the thing about the S Pen. It's basically like you left it on the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, but I would say with a lower latency and with the extra feature of the dropping of a website page onto a document. That's one of the things I would mention here. Now, for the sake of security, you already saw me using the fingerprint scanner. It's an optical one. It's quite fast and accurate. You also have face unlock, but it's not as secure on account of not having a secondary infrared sensor. Now, other features we're mentioning here, you can have the adaptive brightness. You also have your always on display options. You can change the clock style. You can show music information. You have your lock screen widgets, which are a thing now, and they've been quite popular. You can see them here. There's dark mode, of course. And there's link to Windows for productivity, as well as DeX, which works wirelessly ever since the Note 20 Ultra, and nearby share and quick share. Okay, let's see what else. With the DeX feature I mentioned before, you can actually connect to a monitor or TV set which has Miracast, and you should be able to also connect to a mouse and keyboard and mimic a Windows-like experience, which involves a sort of taskbar and start menu and basically a big screen desktop experience. The pre-installed apps list, it's quite hefty, but we have a lot of storage here, not if you're buying the basic model. Anyway, we have the Samsung Health, and we have smart things to connect to your smart things around the house. There is Bixby, the virtual assistant. It has Bixby routines now, a bunch of presets, activities, or actions related to apps or features. This is the Google Suite. This is the Microsoft Suite, Office, OneDrive, LinkedIn, and Outlook. And we have Spotify, Galaxy Store. There's also Game Launcher with features for the gamers and things that block your distractions, for example. And I think we're pretty much at the end of the current review. So let's go to our website and finally deliver the verdict on what's the idea with the Galaxy S22 Ultra. As usual, I'm going to start with the pros and the cons. On the pro side, we have a great looking smartphone, finally rid of its protruding huge module from the two predecessors. It's also solidly built. It's got a hugely bright screen, one of the brightest screens I've ever seen, and I really had to tone it down for the review here. You can see the brightness bar just hanging on. A very powerful processor lies inside, the Exynos 2200. We actually do not have games powerful enough to take advantage of its AMD technology. I would call the battery life okay when it comes to video playback and continuous usage. I mean, it's solid and all, but we've come to expect a bit more from the higher end phones nowadays. Now, from the stereo speaker setup we have here, we have a solid bass and a pleasant overall sound, but no records were being broken. I would also have to mention very fast connectivity, And of course, One UI is always a plus. It's possibly the best interface experience on top of Android. Sometimes people preferred something like, I don't know, Xperia UI, maybe Exynos, but One UI is now the top dog, unless Motorola has something to say about it with their implementation, which is actually not too shabby. S Pen is obviously a reason to buy the phone on itself, on its own, with the ultra low latency, one of the lowest on the market. I'm not sure if there's a pen with a lower latency than this. It's more responsive than ever. It supports converting what you write here into handwritten notes in 88 languages. It's a boon for students, drawers, entrepreneurs worldwide. It's basically excellent for your productivity needs and for your artistic needs. It's got a perfect stabilization for the video capture and a perfect front camera for vloggers, excellent colors in the photos and perfect selfies, a superb level of zoom, you already saw that, and the fact is that now it's even improved from the predecessor somehow, even though that one also improved on its own from the S22 Ultra. So you can even go ahead and work with 50x zoom photos. The night mode takes a whole new turn, and all the night shots are excellent here, perhaps better than any other phone on the market ever launched so far. And Nightography really is a thing now, courtesy of Samsung. Okay, so those were the pros. Now on the cons, I would have to admit that the phone is a bit slippery on account of these very rounded areas around the frame. Also, it doesn't come with a charger, that's a minus. The audio is less impressive than on the predecessors, and there is the uninspired placement of the speaker here, which we're going to cover like this. Another gripe I have with the phone is that, if I'm being really honest about it, the zooming in when doing video capture isn't as impressive as the zooming in photos. Plus, there's no micro SD here, and this area, the cam lenses area, draws a lot of particles and dust and lint. Whatever you're doing, you're going to draw particles around this portion. At the end of the day, we're dealing here with the best screen on the market, the best stylus on the market, the best zoom on the market, and the best stabilization on the market. So these are 4 reasons to buy the phone. It's the ultimate note-taking device, zooming device for paparazzi, tool for vloggers on account of the quality selfie camera. However, if you own an S21 Ultra, it may not be the time for a jump. If you own a Note 20 Ultra, this may tempt you quite a bit. If you also do the whole buyback thing, the price won't seem as steep for the S22 Ultra. So that's pretty much it. Some evolution from the S21 Ultra, not a huge one, but definitely a product for the Note, the Galaxy Note nostalgics. That's it from gsn.com. This has been the review of the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. Goodbye.